Boards games, it's what I'm talking about. Boards games, I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing. And today I'm going to talk about the best bits of yesterday when I did playtest. And although I must say that I'm going to give very biased thoughts, I'll talk about more about my own games. It's from my perspective. Board games, it's what I'm talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. This is episode 436 of Bezzy Beats Briefer Blether, and today I am going to be doing a bit of a recap of yesterday when I went to Friday Daytime Playtest. I will give a very brief overview of some information that I got in a private pitch meeting yesterday with details removed. And yeah, I will just chat about how we are and how what we're up to. Of course, if you want to ask me any questions or suggest a brilliant thing, then feel free to. But before I chat about all of that, let's talk about some recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. So what have I been up to over the past day since regular viewers might have seen me yesterday morning? Well, let me actually first... No, I'll show you that in a wee bit. Basically, I went to playtesting. That was good times. I showed off... I am going to show you these wee pictures. I showed off a game about grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips to Danny. We played a few two-player games. It worked well. Then I thought, what if we could have even more turnips? So rather than allowing 3, I allowed 4. That was working fine as well. So I thought, okay, let's try it, moving it up. I thought, okay, let's go up to 5. No, let's go up to 6. We played 6 a few times, and suddenly at 6, it became more about the turnips because... So, for example, what's going on in this game is that there are creatures and there might be 4 different styles of heads, and here are a bunch of heads that I drew. This is kind of experimentation. They are going to be very similar, but then sometimes there will be a head that is totally different. There you go. Hopefully you can tell that these heads with no eyes and 1 mouth are very different from the other ones with 2 eyes and no mouth. And there will be the catty head, and there will be something like the mushroom have lots of eyes head. Sorry about this. So there will be something like that as well. Maybe just 3 eyes is enough. Anyway, so you're grabbing creatures with different bodies, different legs, different heads, and every creature that you grab needs to be different. But you're allowed to grab a turnip. A turnip is different to any creature, so you can grab a turnip and then a creature and then a turnip and a creature, and it makes it really easy. But you can only grab so many turnips, and that's the thing about the turnips. You have to keep in your mind, how many turnips have I taken? And when it was free, it was like fairly easy. Okay, I've grabbed that 1, I've grabbed 2. Okay, I think I've grabbed 3, I'm fairly confident. But when it was, okay, you can grab 5 turnips. Well, we played 6 in the Royal Festival Hall, and we played a few times, and it was always really working hard to keep it in my head. And then when I played it in the house against Mina, we played 3 times, and 2 of the times I messed up because I grabbed my 6th turnip, and I'm only allowed 5. And so I think that 5 is actually probably about the perfect number, because that's enough to make you, if you're a bit tired or if you're not paying enough attention, you forget how many turnips you've taken. But then I need to work out the turnip ratio. And this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about. Like, how many players does a game need to go up to? Because in theory, this game should have at least 5 turnips per person. I want there to be enough turnips for everyone. It shouldn't be a speed of when you grab the turnips. It should be just you. The turnips are always there. If you run out of turnips, that means that someone's grabbed too many. But the turnips are always there. The question is, when do you grab your turnips? When do you, if you're struggling, when there's one creature that you can't grab, do you just grab a turnip for the sake of it to just carry on and not fall into a bad pattern? Or do you wait until the end when there's maybe only quite a few creatures remaining? Do you wait until there's like a couple of visible creatures that you know, okay, neither of them work, and then okay, I'm going to grab a turnip so that I can proceed? Like, at what point do you grab that turnip? And that is actually an interesting decision that you start to, that even now, like, I'm pondering about, and after 3 games of it at 5, I'm still not sure exactly when the tolerance level should be for grabbing a turnip. And I like the fact that at the end, there's going to be, you know, a bunch of extra turnips. There'll be a few creatures, and it'll be creature, turnip, and then you will have run out of the creatures, and it'll be only turnips. That's it. It's only turnips. And earlier on, I was thinking of like a bonus point or 2 for the person who picks up the last card. You don't even need that. There's enough going on in the game, and so I quite like how it's simplified. But the problem is, okay, so with the creatures, I could have, for example, 36 creatures or 48 creatures. It's nice to have something that's a multiple. So let's say currently I have 4 heads, 3 bodies, 3 legs. That's 4 times 3 times 3 means that it's 36. I could go up to 48. I could add, you know, 4 legs, for example. I could have spider legs. Like, I could totally have spider legs and they'd look totally different, and that would be fine. That would go up to 48, but I've got to keep in my mind, how many cards can I have in one deck? How many cards can I print? And at what cost? This is where I'm starting to get into the question of production. Because if I make it a typical game, 54 card sheet, okay, maybe as a Bezzy budget bag, front cover, back cover, even if I use those for the instructions. Okay, now what do? I've got maximum 52 cards left over, probably 51. That means minus 36. I've got 15 or 16 turnips left, which means that it's only a game for 2 or 3 players. And that feels incredibly unsatisfying. A game for 2 or 3 players? Would people really want that? Then the question comes to my mind, should there be more? Should there be like, okay, you buy a second deck if you want to play up to 6 players. I mean, that's an easy way to solve it. Okay, buy multiple decks for multiple players, and that at least keeps the ratios correct. The other thing that occurred to me was that I could add potentially 18 cards, but then it's going to take it from a £5 game into a £7 game, and that changes things. And I think this is the thing, like I've been saying in the past, you know, the design, development, the art, the graphic design, the rules writing, all of that is 1/3 of the game. And then you've got the marketing and you've got the production. But ideally, like, all of these parts of making a game should be a cohesive whole. Like, when you're designing a game, you should be thinking in your mind, how can I market this? What's unique about this? What's different about this? But also, how can I produce this? What are the expensive components? What are the parts that might be a wee bit troubling? What player counts can I get to? Because if you have to multiply the components, like let's say a 2 to 3 player game needs half the number of components for a 6-player game, is it really worth you making a game that's 2 to 6 players, for example? Is it worth you doing that? Or should you just say, yeah, if you want to buy 6-player thing, then if you want to play this game 6 players, then buy 2 copies. And hello, Alex. It is lovely to see you this morning. I am just chatting about yeah, you might have seen this, well, not this one, because this one isn't finished, this page, but you might have seen this art on Twitter already. So this is art for, and Alex says, I will make a solo game that you can play with more players if you buy one copy per player. And that's a fair idea. That seems reasonable. Do you think that... I mean, it's difficult for you to say, having, with due respect, not having gone to markets in a big way. Like, have you... Would you be willing to do that yourself? Would you be willing to buy 2 copies of a game and buy essentially 2 Bezzy budget bags? Because at that point, there's the thing in my mind that, is it really a Bezzy budget bag anymore? If I say, hey, here's a £5 bag and you can play this game 2 or 3 players, but if you want to play 6 players, you have to buy 2 copies. If you want to play 9 players, you can, but you need to buy 3 copies. And firstly, thank you for the compliments about the artwork. Alex says, depends on the game. Keyforge works on this model, except it doesn't play solo. That is true, and so like but I think that games with ownership, with personal ownership over your deck, are very different. Where you're like, oh, I'm going to buy something, and then the thing that I buy is totally different to other people's, and that thing that I buy will be my own. And like, even before Keyforge, like, I mean, that was Richard Garfield obviously trying to go back to day zero of Magic the Gathering before it was even released, back when there were leagues and people didn't trade cards at all. But even nowadays, I mean, people who are playing more casually and not just net decking everything might be like, okay, I want to make a Reaper King deck with all the scarecrows, and I'm going to get a bunch of scarecrows, and this is my deck, and this is mine, and I have ownership of it. And same with Keyforge. Okay, you don't have the construction, but you still have ownership over your deck. And so I think there's a reason why people are willing to buy things like that. And that kind of game, that's a completely different model at a scale which is, you know, order of magnitudes above where I'm aiming for. I mean, it's possible that I should be aiming higher, but also I am somewhat being realistic, let's be honest. I'm not going to be selling millions of my self-published stuff anytime soon. And maybe it's an experiment, and to be fair, the Bezzy budget bags are kind of about experimentation, so maybe I should move that experimentation also to the business model. I don't know. Alex says, my son has been given a load of spare Pokemon cards, and actually helping him make some casual decks with those random cards has been quite fun. Yeah, like, that is it. That's like Richard Garfield said in the past, like, you know, having access and being able to buy all the different types of magic cards and make any deck that you want does make it a slightly worse game from a lot of measures. And having a limited card pool is the interesting part. And so, yeah, enjoy that. Um, anyway, so there, apart from that talk about, yeah, and again, it comes down to, if this is a good game, if this is a fine game for 2 or 3 players, then is that too restrictive? How many player counts? And then that gets me to think, well, you know what? I know Sate keeps Kitty Cataclysm purely for playing at 2 players, and I know that there are lots of 2-player only games. And to be fair, there's people who bought QE, the original version, which was 4-player only, and there are some 3-player only game. I mean, Tichu is 4-player only, so maybe it's not an issue, and maybe I should just experiment and go ahead with it. Anyway, the other game that I played was, well, I didn't play it at all. I observed it. I observed people playing Dwindle. I had Danny and Andy playing Dwindle, which is looking really promising. Yeah, I've got a couple of design development choices, let's call them development choices, that have to be made. But as a 1-player game, Andy played and then was like, oh, well, if you manage to get a better score than me, I got a score of 8. Well, I want to try again. And then Andy played again and got a score of 5. Lower is better, by the way. And so Andy was like, yeah, excellent. Okay, what is the tricky version? I want to play this. And I was like, by the way, I want to respect Danny's time, and Danny has a game to play, but if you're both okay with this, then carry on. And Danny was like, oh no, I want to finish the game that I'm playing. And for the record, Danny had been starting a simple, what I will call, I'm not sure what to call it, standard or simple. Anyway, so there's 3 modes. One is going to be called standard or simple. One will be maybe called tricky, and then the last one will be called either marathon or epic. And then the last one takes you well over an hour, which is a long time for a solo game, but you can pack it away, which I quite like. And yeah, basically everyone who's played has wanted to kind of carry on when it's gone long, or even when I've said you can stop now, by the way, you can totally stop. I really appreciate it. And so that's a good sign anyway. So once I get my laptop back, which will be hopefully the start of next week, maybe Monday, I am going to write the rules for that. And also I've played Bluffable. No, we didn't like the word Bluffable. We're going to change that name to Braggable. Yeah, so we'll rewrite the rules to base. I'll work out the top 5-ish. I'll rewrite the rules for all the top 21. I want to do it in a far better way than I did in 2020, and I do apologize, Alex, and also Xate, and also anyone else who joined in 2020 and is owed some stuff from me. I know I've been quite behind with stuff, but yeah, I want to try and make sure that this year, at least, this goes a wee bit more according to plan. Oh, deceivable. That's no, that's the thing, that there's not enough deception. It's more about bragging. But if you brag too much, then you mess up. That's the thing, that there's not lying or deception or bluffing at all. And that's why, anyway. So thank you for forgiving me, Alex. And Alex says, 2-player games are very popular. I think the most common player count for many people playing with a housemate or a partner. And I guess in most situations, your partner is kind of like a housemate with special stuff added on. I mean, it's a housemate with extra commitment and love. That's a nice way to put it, I think. But yeah, it's a fair point. And so yeah, if you yeah, like an expansion, says Alex, more benefits. Housemates with benefits. And the benefits are love and commitment. And possibly sex. But this is a family friendly show. Anyway, so sorry, I've distracted myself. But yeah, I am going to be trying to do that next week, let's say. I will be trying to do also get. Oh, one thing I have, yeah, not heard back from Vagard about the bank details, but I'm hoping that we get some 400 copies printed in time for Essen, which would be really cool to have people able to buy it from there. But the other thing that I want to talk about in recent highlights was firstly, Danny's game. Danny played a rambling game. It's literally about rambling. You're rambling around the countryside. You ramble along, you roll some dice, and then you ramble. And then you move your little person, and then you see different places. And you're trying to see different places. You cross off the places where you've seen, and then you're like, oh, I've seen this place, I've seen this place. And then sometimes you see flowers, sometimes you see fish, or fauna, like land animals, sometimes you see birds. And so like they're divided into, I think, 4 categories, like land, sea, air, and flowers. And butterflies are part of the flowers, I think, for a weird reason. But anyway, let's not. Flowers and insects. Anyway, but and also there's a whole bit about jam making, and the jam making is pretty exciting, and you can even make elderflower wine, but you want the freshest elderflowers that there are. It was a really lovely game. There was also a bit with a kind of this evil black cube, and the black cube is just decimating the countryside. And yeah, both Andy and I was said, like, look, I need to rush off, but this is I just spouted all my feedback as quickly as I could, and one of the things was, yeah, this is at odds with the game. It's not relaxing. This feels like a game that should be relaxing and pleasant. Why have you got this black cube that's decimating the countryside? I mean, fair enough if you had a game about, saving the countryside from these people. If that was what it was about, that would be a lovely thing. Have a game about the destruction of the countryside and trying to save the countryside. But that's not what this game is about. This game is about rambling. And it really feels at odds where, well, once I've been to a place, it doesn't matter if that bit of the countryside gets destroyed because I've already seen it. That's really weird. And anyway, it didn't add to the game. It was just another bit of bookkeeping. And apparently it was one of the starting bits that I saw on Instagram, Danny saying, yeah, it's been over a year, and that means that I've forgotten why I included things, and I'm more ready to take them out. And, if you've not already heard it, yeah, kill your darlings. I mean, don't get attached to things. Try things. Sometimes try a crazy change. And I'm a big advocate of trying crazy changes that you don't think will work. Sometimes, at least once every 10 tests, let's say. That's a number that I'm vaguely plucking out of the air. But once in a while, try something crazy that you literally do not think will work. I mean, try inverting the win condition and saying that instead of being the person to get the most points, it's the person to get the least points, and maybe actually spend an hour tweaking things to arrange around that. Don't just be like, well, this can't work, and set it up for failure. Think that it can't work, but then set it up for success. Hope for the best, expect the worst. And sometimes it's like, okay, I will cut out half of the mechanisms in this game, and it will probably not work, but let's try it. And get big and bold with your testing, because that's the thing. And arguably I wasn't bold enough when I went from 4 to 6. I should have really gone from 4 to 7, because 7 was the maximum. And when you're thinking, oh, should I do this, should I do that, it's like, make big sweeping changes, because that gives you the data. Let's say I had gone to 7 and it was like, oh, 7 is too much. Then I would have understood the game better. I would have understood, okay, 7, this is the limit, and so somewhere between 4 and 7 is correct, and actually 4 might be a lot more correct. I might understand why it's bad. By playing the game, you see it in a new light, and also by making these sorts of crazy changes, it stops you from getting too attached to your darlings. I mean, you can't be... Look, it's nice if you want to enjoy the process of design. Yeah, go ahead and enjoy the process of design. It is something to take pleasure in, because ultimately, yeah, it's... Well, hopefully you're enjoying your life. Hopefully this is something that can be, even if you do end up making money from it, it's still a privilege, and hopefully we can still be getting pleasure from it. But if you're planning to share your game with other people, the fact that, oh, this is the one seed of the idea that was here, it doesn't matter if that was the spark of the idea, and just get rid of it. Get rid of it. And yeah, it doesn't matter where the idea came from. It doesn't matter the journey. It matters the final output. Anyway, so that was that. I cycled home. I had a pitch meeting with a person from a larger company who has sold millions of games, and the larger company, I showed them a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. I was told that for this particular company, the game was not quite a fit. I was told that it was very close. I was told that the only problem was that the noise making was kind of had too much possibility space in what the people could do. It was a bit too unguided, for want of a better word. And yeah, I was like, okay, fair enough, I get that. And then they explained what they wanted, and I showed them a game about grabbing creatures that are totally different and trying to identify them after someone makes... No, grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips. I'm getting mixed up with my own games now. That's not a good sign. And I was told that as I had said myself, that basically with that one, it's not a race like Jungle Speed for every single card. It's you're grabbing your own pile of cards. And so, yeah, I was told that that was a bit too solitaire, which doesn't mean that it's a solo game. It just means that you're focusing on your own actions, like you're looking inwards, you're focusing on what you're doing, you're concentrating on how many turnips you have picked up. And what I was told with this company was I was told in no uncertain terms that they want high stakes, they want excitement every turn. They want you to be involved in other people's turns. They want you to be paying attention to other people, and also they want it to be something where it's somewhat more structured and guided. Anyway, so it was a really useful meeting, and thank you, Stream Elements, because it's been 20 minutes. I am going to stand up and do a wee bit of stretching. Anyway, so this meeting, like I was told that, yeah, these are both really good games. Don't change them for us. Someone else will pick them up. And yeah, I had a couple of companies suggested and the offer of several introductions, which is an amazing offer. And I will definitely take this individual up on that offer when I go to Nuremberg. So that was my evening. I also had a tiny pizza, ate some noodles, and had a relatively early night. Can I call it an early night? Meh. It was early-ish. Talking about discarding ideas, Alex says, one thing I noticed when Matthew Dunstan did a game jam was how quickly the initial concept was discarded. Yeah. I mean, you can't be falling in love with stuff. Like, try it. If it's like, nah. And yeah, 100%. Anyway, so that is my recent highlights and achievements. Obviously, on Saturday, I think it's just going to be a thing. On Saturday, it's basically just about the playtest. And if you want to chat about your own highlights and achievements, then feel free. Otherwise, questionably quick questions. That's the next section. It's not an interrogation. It's questionably quick question section. Questionably quick questions. And while you're potentially thinking of maybe today we've got time for one, maybe two questionably quick questions, I will talk about a brilliant thing, brilliant thing, brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? Brilliant things. Brilliant things. I'm going to say, yeah, boxes are brilliant, and I'm still going to say boxes are brilliant, but I'm also going to say cheap paper, not just any paper, but cheap paper, that I feel like I am able to draw on it, and I don't worry too much about the quality of the drawing. I don't worry, I just get started, and maybe it turns out to be something that I'm quite happy with it once it's all done, but having that anxiety of, oh, it's like this much per page, yeah, like I would rather have paper where, yeah, some of the ink has spilled through onto the next page because, you know, there I didn't use a page to kind of, if I wanted to be careful, when I was drawing the wee whimsical creatures, I would have put a page in between each page behind each time that I was drawing, and then that way it keeps it clean and it keeps it fine. But yeah, having cheap paper that gives yourself, because it's all about that permission, like talking about scrapping things. It's like, yeah, this doesn't have to be great. I can do it, and if I don't like it, that's fine. It's about experimenting, having permission to be playful, to try things, and that is my brilliant thing, cheap paper. So the questionably quick question for today is, if I had to own 30 turnips for 30 days, what would I do with them? I mean, do I have to give them back? Do I have to keep these turnips? Or am I allowed to cook them and ingest them? Do I have to give them back in some manner? That's the question. Like, what happens after the 30 days? What are my obligations? I need more details. Because my first thought was, how long do turnips last? Like, within 30 days, I feel like turnips can get a bit smelly. And I probably would cook them. I probably would, yeah, I imagine cooking a lot of turnip, and if I'm allowed to eat them, if it's just you cannot give them away, then I would cook them into meals, and I would potentially freeze some of these meals, and yeah, I would just have turnipy food for a while. If I have to give them back, I guess I would just find out how to store them without them going bad. Maybe I would, like, what's happening? Is this under pain of death? Under, like, do I die if I don't give these turnips back? Or am I given, if it is there a financial reward? Is there a financial penalty? If there's a financial reward, then maybe what I would do is, what does failure involve? If I fail, I have to own 60 turnips for 60 days, and so on. No, so on isn't clear at all. Like, does that go 30, 60, 90, or does it go 30, 60, 120? Is it doubling, or is it adding 30? And also, you haven't clarified, Alex, how do I have to give the turnips back? Do I have to give the turnips back? What does it, and so, and if I fail with the 60 turnips, then can I just, in that case, can this be just, okay, I intentionally fail, I just give all the turnips away? That seems like a good deal to me. Like, I mean, if the only penalty is to get more turnips, then this seems like a way to get infinite turnips. Just start giving away all the turnips to people who want turnips. And maybe I cook them and I don't give them back at all. I just cook them and then I give them away to people in the street. Maybe, um, okay. And apparently I don't have to give them back, they should just be owned at 30 days. So, so that sounds like if I eat them before the 30 days are done, then, like, it sounds like the only way that I can get through this is I have enough freezer space or cold storage space for the turnips to not grow old or mushy, and or I just say, okay, they are going to grow old or mushy. I have them in a, although, yeah, with the penalty, I do wonder about the infinite turnips, because in theory, like, once it's like, I do feel like at a certain point, could I start like a turnip business? Like, if these turnips are just appearing and filling up my room, okay, it's possible that I'm now having visions of, like, on the first day of the month, the first day of the periods, just suddenly the turnips pop into existence. And then if, like, it gets to be too many, then they start, like, they're just raining from the ceiling of my bedroom, for example. And they just kind of rain down and it's like, oh wow. So at a certain point, I am going to potentially get crushed by these turnips. So yeah, this is quite a troubling thing. Hello, Jessica Jane Sankey. It is lovely to see you. We are discussing a question of, yeah, if you were to get an increasing number of turnips that rained down on you, um like, and it might be wherever you're sleeping or wherever you are at that moment, just a big chunk of turnips rain down on you. It's like the first time it happens, there's 30 turnips, they rain down. And then if you are finished, if you still have these 30 turnips at the end of the 30 days, then okay, that's all good. Otherwise, 60 turnips are going to rain down on you. And if you have, and then it goes to 90 turnips, well, Alex wasn't super clear on that. So I'm assuming it goes up linearly rather than exponentially, or, but then it would be 90 turnips and then 120 turnips. And soon enough, there's no way to guard against these turnips. So what I'm thinking is I would have to buy some sort of shield and, hard hat to protect myself from these turnips raining down. So knowing all this was going to happen, I could nip it in the bud and own the 30 turnips for 30 days. But instead, I am going to invest some money in some hardware, because, and when I think about it, it's not actually that many turnips. It's only one turnip per day. This is not enough to build a business around or really feed hungry people. So actually now, in retrospect, I'm more inspired to actually try to own the turnips for 30 days. Because, I mean, let's say you get to 1,000 turnips for 1,000 days. That's not that great. That means that you've got a few days of needing to remembering to shield yourself at this moment where the turnips rain down. Potentially anyone around you might be caught in the crossfire, so you need to be away from other people so that no one else gets hurt, because the turnip torrent is coming, and then you have to hire people to help you cook these turnips or get rid of them or do something with them, and you have to, yeah. So to make use of them, if you want to go the business route, and at that point, after 1,000 days, you're going to be, left with just a smelly pile of mush. So I think I am going to try to own the 30 turnips for 30 days. I would do my best to own the turnips. Okay, that was quite a question. Thank you for that questionably quick question. That was definitely not actually quick, so that was a perfectly questionably quick question. So for now, it is at this point over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. If there's anything that you're looking forward to doing, anything that you need to be doing, serious or frivolous, just let me know. I am personally going to be checking in on a couple of people, having some chats, maybe doing some more drawing. Maybe I'll draw some more of these mushroomy heads with 3 eyes. Maybe I'll, you know what, maybe I'll try and do some reading and see how I get on. Maybe I'll read some rule sheets. Maybe I'll read a book. But anyway, that is me. The world is my oyster, figuratively speaking. Whoops. It's hard to hit the buttons. So, Alex is lurking. In that case, I am going to recap and wrap up. So, recap and wrap up before I finish up. Recap and wrap up. Today I talked about a game about grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips. I talked about having a player count, and we decided that it is a bit experimental. I don't know what will happen, but let's try it. Because the whole idea of the Bezzy budget bag is that it is a bit of an experiment. And rather than having a separate 4-player expansion, let's just say buy 2 copies for 4 or 6 players, buy 3 copies for 7 or 9 players, and yeah. It does feel like it could work. Talked about LDEC games and people enjoying them. I'm really excited that there's now a solo game that takes over an hour and people are enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. Although I play quite quickly, it doesn't take me over an hour. It takes me nearly an hour, but admittedly. But anyway, actually, I just go really quickly and I don't bother too much about my score, is the truth. But then I talked about rambling and taking things out of games. I talked about what we talked about paper and cheap paper being brilliant. Just giving yourself permission to draw whatever, to doodle, to do whatever, to do the doodle. And talked about turnips. What would you do if you had to take care of 30 turnips for 30 days? I think I would do my utmost to find a safe, dry place. I think I would start off looking on Google to find out about how quickly turnips go rotten. If you want to check me out, I am obviously stuffbybez.com, stuffbybez.bricker.com, twitter.com/stuffbybez, instagram.com/stuffbybez. I am streaming every day at 10 AM UK time at twitch.tv/stuffbybez and youtube.com/stuffbybez. If you want to join me in my Discord, it is stuffbybez.com/discord. And also in, what did I want to say? Twitter, LDEC, twitter.com/ELL_deck. I will be streaming every day at 10 AM UK time. I do have a few things lined up, but for now, just assume that I am streaming every day. I will be getting my laptop back in time for hopeful Tuesday streaming next Tuesday. I will be doing the 4 PM playful shenanigans, but I won't be doing the evening thing. I want to say, yeah, feel free to share to spread the word. I want to say thank you, everyone. Everyone, thank you. And it's been fun to chat to you. Okay, so thank you, Alex and Jess, and anyone else who's watching or is watching after the facts. And if you're there, feel free to tell me. Do you know the best way to store turnips? When was the last time you even ate a turnip? I haven't eaten a turnip for ages. I mean, I'm not really that infatuated about turnips. Honestly, the turnip idea came from someone else. And I think that's the thing. Like, it was just something really mundane and obs like it's just something really mundane and normal. I mean, I guess, yeah, root vegetables are not the most exciting thing. But yeah, I've not eaten a turnip in ages. I'm not a big fan. They're a bit hard to cut. But yeah, thank you everyone. It's been lovely to have you. And for now, there is only one thing left to say. Bye. Bye bye, bye bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye. Bye bye, this is a goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye.